We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk, 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI, now in Albuquerque, New Mexico at 1000 KKIM, and on the Internet 3 times a week on knookmedia.com, serving Richmond, Oakland, and the San Francisco Bay Area. Our guest by phone, the Hollywood reporter, James Hirsen.
You know, James, it appears to me that anybody of faith or any Christian that tries to do anything is actually being discriminated against. Now, I'll give you an example. Recently, there were 2 Christian real estate agents that were going to be on a TV show, and they found out they were Christians, so they canceled the TV show. But now it looks like Oprah Winfrey is going to put a show on about Sam and his little boyfriend and their lifestyle. And I just don't understand why we have to go in that direction for everything. That's one issue. There was another issue recently in Pasadena where I think it's a professor at the college was going to give a talk, and because he's a Christian, they've told him he can't give the talk now. Same thing, Condoleezza Rice. Everywhere you go, there's discrimination against Christians. How do we overcome this?
No, I mean it's not. It's against anything that the left doesn't agree with, and so it's a suppression of speech. It's an Orwellian kind of approach, using to use an Orwellian term, newspeak. In the name of tolerance, we will suppress your speech. When you talked about it's the Home and Gardens channel that canceled the show about the twins.
Right.
It's inexplicable to me, especially after what happened with Duck Dynasty, how that channel can do that. Now, you know, it's not government acting per se, and so that does not invoke legally the First Amendment. But we have to be concerned if we start to live in a culture that where we are feeling like we can't speak our minds and can't express our opinions, and most of all, that we can't express legitimate faith. In the case of the Mozilla CEO, he had donated years ago to a political campaign on the side that was the same side that had the same view as President Obama at the time, as Hillary Clinton at the time, and somehow a pressure group was able to turn that into an act of hate. And the fact that they can do that is because of their enablers in the media, and it's of great concern, and a number of people are bucking it. You know, we mentioned in the last segment Donald Sterling. I agree with Mark Cuban, who certainly is not on the same side as I am politically, no. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who both said very courageously that this is, you know, regardless of what the content of his speech was, this was a private conversation in a home that was not meant to be heard, and for him to be banned for life the same year that he won a Lifetime Achievement Award from the NAACP is disproportional, because everybody, including this spineless head of the NBA, wants to show how utterly compassionate they are and why they want to inoculate themselves. You know, don't include me as someone together with Donald Stern, as if we by condemning him, we purify ourselves. And it has been, and of course he has made things worse for himself with this CNN interview. I mean, the sad thing about Donald Stern is, you know, and anybody that has PR savvy knows, you don't do what he did and go sit down with Anderson Cooper when you're 80 years old and you have this tendency. I mean, if anything, all he should have done is written statements. But that being said, yes, there's no question that we live in a world where the Christian faith is under assault. You remember Chick-fil-A, and you remember the, quote, Chick-fil-A moment. Well, that happened again with Duck Dynasty. Duck Dynasty was inundated. And, you know, there's, something like 90 million self-identified evangelicals in this country, I believe. 80% of the country self-identified Christian, and it's a force. Look at what's happened at the box office in Hollywood. They're paying attention. We're talking about a major force. When there's a Chick-fil-A moment, you asked what can we do? That's what we can do. We have to have more of those Chick-fil-A moments.
But James, that's been the outcry for the last 20, 30 years, and is to get the conservative Christians to be motivated to do something. But going back to Sterling for a second, part of the inconsistency I see in this, and it's funny because I've talked about it in some of the classes I've taught the last couple of weeks, is here you have, okay, he has the right to be an idiot because it's a private moment, and if he's an idiot on his own time and he doesn't do it publicly, that's his business. But on the other side of the ledger, you've got, what's the NAACP doing giving this guy a second Lifetime Achievement Award when he's lost a couple of lawsuits for discrimination in housing? He's lost millions of dollars. The obvious answer is he's donating to them, and
all about money.
It's all about money. And then you've got, Al Sharpton was supposed to give the award. Now all of a sudden he's, bashing him. So, you've got this inconsistency there, based around the economics of it, which is what Clay was talking about earlier. So,
Well, everybody knew that Donald Sterling was one of the largest donors to African American causes in the entire Southern California region. And so they would stand in line to get his money, and they were happy to take it. And if they gave back money, if charities gave back money from every jerk who gave them money, they wouldn't have any money.
Exactly.
And also, the idiots at UCLA announced that they were going to give back a gift that he gave millions of dollars for kidney research that would save people's lives because, it came from this horrible Donald Sterling. But see, that just shows how pervasive this political correctness idea has seeped in, and it's very, very unfortunate. It does suppress a whole host of individual freedoms. And the thing that really shocked me about the commissioner of the NBA is that he made it a point to be explicit that this lifetime ban that he imposed on Donald Sterling and the forced sale was for only these conversations that have been made public, not any act from the past. That's the part of it that really people should be really afraid of. If the NBA imposed that kind of standard on their players, they'd have half the players.
Yeah.
In other words, because you got convicted felons playing basketball.
And racists.
What crime did Donald Sterling commit?
Exactly.
He never committed a crime is the answer. And so we also have a problem in the way we look at morality and ethics. We are gradually moving toward making rhetoric the worst crime, that speech is the worst crime. Actions are not. That's absolutely opposite of what way we should look at it.
Yeah, but it's also certain speech. Not all speech. It just depends. Yeah,
of course,
unfortunately.
It's politically incorrect speech.
We're having a conversation with James Hirsen, the Hollywood Reporter.
James, there was a football player that jumped in on this Sam situation, and he wrote on his Facebook, I guess, "Oh my God," and he's being criticized for that. And yet there's people that make derogatory remarks and threatening remarks and never get criticized or have any responsibility to do anything about it. It's just a double-sided society today, as you've been pointing out.
No, it is, and we now know that whole scene, that video that's been played over and over again, was part of a reality show that is on Oprah Winfrey's network. She gave this guy a reality show, and it was staged. And so, they staged it for the shock value. That was the intent, to get ratings on Oprah's network. And then, of course, his reaction, which was, there was nothing vicious about it. It was honest. I mean, there are a lot of people I know that just don't like public displays of affection, no matter what the sex is. But certainly, people aren't used to seeing some big linebacker, making out with a little white guy. To me, it was just somebody reacting at the moment and being honest. And when you're among friends, one of the things you ask for among friends is, hey, be truthful with me. Tell me the truth. And friends will. And we have a situation now where people are talking in a private home. People are having an argument in an elevator. People are, and there's no, the notion of privacy is dying. The right to privacy is dying. and the technology is increasing all the time for ways to invade privacy. And so that's an underlying issue as well, in addition to the political correctness. And look, there's been an agenda that's been involved with the entertainment business going, back decades, where now if somebody has a sitcom, they have to have a gay character. It's mandatory.
Right.
And you have to have some kind of gay relationship, and it's rewarded in Hollywood. I mean, people started to notice when individual actors would be showered with awards if they portrayed a gay character. Tom Hanks, for example. There's a lot of this agenda, and part of it is because the gay community is a very creative community. They're part of these industries, and they dominate the industry, and they have a tremendous influence on the members of Hollywood, which are all mindless lemmings. Because it's such a hard business, they have to stay with the trend, and they are taught not to think for themselves and not to buck the system because their career suffers.
I want to ask you a money question. I understand that, going back to Donald Sterling, that UCLA returned millions of dollars. Did the NAACP return the money that he gave to them?
I've never seen anything indicating that they even talked about it. I don't know the answer. But as far as I know, I haven't seen anything indicating that. So that's a very good question. I think the fact that they canceled his award, he doesn't want to do this, but his people probably have the right to demand it back.
James, we've got 15 seconds left, and I do want to plug something for you. Tune in to his legal radio show, LegalSurvivalShow.com. James, thanks as always for the time. We've got to have you back.
Okay, thank you so much. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
We'll be back in 167 hours on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.